Mic check 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and I'm back with a follow-up video from a video that I just put out a couple hours ago, talking about how a lot of resellers, most resellers, are losing money right now, and I think the same can be said for retro video game stores, right? So I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of retro game stores go out of business. But I want to kind of touch on a comment that I got, and I can't remember the name of the person who left this comment, but they basically, I mean, the overall message of their comment was basically that I was wrong, and I guess they thought that I was making an argument about resellers losing money. And they used an example of being able to buy $1 games and resell them for $15. Now, I have a few things to say on that. The first thing is there's a difference between possibility and probability, right? Is it possible for you to go and find a $15 game for $1 and sell it? Yes, it is possible. How probable is that is another question, right? And when you start thinking about things like sustainability, like the ability to sustain sales at a certain profit margin within the realm of reselling video games, this is where a lot of people quickly run into an issue, right? And this is why you can't look at people like Phoenix Resale or Retro Rick and think I can do the same thing. Because sustainability is a key factor in any business endeavor you try to go after. And you have to remember that both Phoenix Resale and Retro Rick are undergirded by their multiple YouTube channels. They don't just have one channel. Both of those guys have at least 2 YouTube channels, and the revenue from those 2 YouTube channels undergird their reselling efforts and their video game stores. So I can't remember the person who left a comment underneath that video, but I do not want you to be disillusioned into thinking that just because something is possible, it means that it's probable and that it's likely to continue happening again and again and again. We've all gotten lucky, right? We've all gotten lucky where maybe you went to a yard sale and you found a really rare game, or you looked up and found someone who didn't know what they had online and you were able to snag a gem online. We've all had that. But how many times have you had that, right? How many times are you going to keep having that? And when you're trying to build a business and create a livelihood off of reselling or owning a retro game store, this is where these things really come into play. Now, someone also left a comment on my channel on that video where they basically said that, I bet you none of those resellers own a home, or most resellers that you know don't own a home. I can't say that, right? I don't know if who owns a home or not. I don't know anyone's financial situation, but what I'd have to surmise is that you're not gonna buy a home being a reseller, at least not in today's housing market, right? First of all, just the process for purchasing a home has become so much more stringent over the last 20 years that banks want to see all types of verification of income, and the amount of money you would need to earn to buy the average house in America today is crazy, right? The average house in America, I think, is now at $400,000, right? And then once you start getting to a big city like New York, average homes around here are $1 million, are 850 to $1 million around, at least in New York, in most parts that are somewhat decent. And even if you're not in a very decent part, you're still going to be looking at between $600,000 and $700,000. So, I'm thankful that I bought my home before COVID. I bought my house a long time ago. I was lucky enough to do it when I was in my 20s, but I can tell you what, I definitely didn't do it reselling video games. And that leads me to the follow-up video that I'm here to share now, which is that I think you're going to start to see a lot of your retro game stores close. There are a lot of folks who opened retro video game stores um, during the time of the pandemic when it seemed like things were booming. And not only did they open up one store, but I know folks who opened up multiple stores and got multiple locations and decided to really expand their business. And now they're starting to run into the challenge where it doesn't make sense for them to keep their stores open all day. I go to some of these stores during times where you would think that they would be open. Like if you're if you're a video game store and you're not open between the hours of like 2 and like 6, what are you doing? That's like prime time for kids that are coming out of school who might want to visit a retro game store after school. If you're closed, that's a huge red flag to me. That tells me that either you're having staffing issues, something's going on if you're not able to stay open and be able to service your patrons. And I think the challenge that video game stores are running into is the same challenge that resellers are running into, which is sourcing product. If you caught most people at the start of the pandemic who didn't know what was going on, you were able to trick people out of valuable games and undercut them and give them pennies for what their games are worth. But now that those wells are running dry, you're seeing these retro game stores. I mean, I know of one retro game store that just prides itself in having exclusive games, but then doesn't sell any of them because they're so overpriced, and the owner is very disillusioned as to what people are willing to pay for games today. They still think that it's 2020. They still think that it's 2021, and that people are going to pay, $200 for or $500 for a copy of, I don't know, Xenosaga. And it's like, no one's paying $500 for a copy of Xenosaga 3 anymore. No one's paying $300 for a copy of Suikoden 2 anymore. You'll be lucky if you can get $150 to $180 for Suikoden 2. I think that you have retro game store owners who have not been able to adjust and adapt to what's going on, and they're finding themselves behind the 8 ball with a whole bunch of video games that no one can afford and that no one's gonna buy. And the thing is that even if you had a game store that was full of like really cool and exclusive retro games and high dollar games, once you sell those games, then what? It's not like you're going to be able to easily get them back, and it's not like you're going to be able to buy those games again at wholesale. So it's becoming very challenging. I'm seeing it live in person. I'm seeing it become very challenging for retro game store owners to really move product and run a business. And it's unfortunate because a lot of these retro game store owners weren't smart like Retro Rick and Phoenix Resale. And the only reason why I keep mentioning those two guys was because they diversified. I think they both saw that the retro game reselling thing wasn't going to be as sustainable in the long run as they thought. And now they're like Retro Rick's store and Phoenix Resale's deals, all of that, I mean, they kind of use that to create content, and then the real money comes from YouTube. Phoenix Resale doesn't even do the whole sourcing thing like he used to. I think these guys primarily source from GameStop, conventions, and other resellers. And when resellers start falling out of the game, it's going to make the 1UP app kind of useless because it's really meant for resellers. And I don't think resellers are going to be able to sustain this anymore. They're not going to be able to do it because they're not going to be able to source things in that way. And, I don't wish anything on anyone. Obviously, I would love for retro game stores to stay around because now I have places to shop, right? And I don't want anyone to go out of business or not be able to, be successful. But as I mentioned before, there's a difference between possibility and probability. I have a box of games. I was gonna keep all of these games, but there's an NES game that I really want to get, and I'm really ready to sell or trade all these games in to get it. It's an NES game called Shatterhand. Really cool NES game that I want to pick up, but it's expensive and it's rare and not a lot of copies. So it looks like I'm gonna have to get rid of probably all of this stuff in hopes to be able to raise enough funds to get that game. That's a game that I think is pretty cool. But without retro game stores, I may not have a place to sell some of this stuff. But again, I mean, are you going to retire off of this box of games? Or if you had 100 people bringing you box of games like this, it's not enough. It's not enough. And the only thing that I would say is, if you are a reseller, my advice to you: get on YouTube and start a YouTube channel. Use your business for content and start creating content around reselling, because you're going to come to find that you will need that channel to help you generate revenue for your business. Same thing with your retro game stores. Because I can tell you right now, I know that there are a lot of people who are going through a drought, and there are a lot of people who you just don't see anymore. There's a person that I used to watch all the time. I subscribed to their channel. I think I subscribed to their channel. Really great kid, super cool. Resale Wizard. And some of you may have followed Resale Wizard. I haven't seen Resale Wizard in a long time. Hopefully he's still out there selling. Hopefully he's still out there flipping. But he's someone who did a lot of flips and made content. And I remember starting my YouTube channel around the same time as Resale Wizard. And he used to find really great deals, and he'd flip stuff. But again, he's not on YouTube as much, as from what I see. If any of you have seen any of his latest videos, or if he does have anything new out, feel free to tag me, let me know down in the comments. But that dude was a killer, and he's just one example of a lot of folks who have really slowed down, because it's getting real. The economy downshift is real, and it's more possible for you to generate consistent income by just getting a job than it is trying to break into the reselling business when it's kind of played out and a lot of people are over it. If you told me you were going to start doing this 4, maybe 5 years ago, I would say yeah, but now is definitely not the time. And the same thing is happening in the sneaker industry too. There are a lot of people who opened up these little sneaker stores that quickly went down. I can't tell you how many sneaker stores I saw pop up during COVID that are gone. And it's because the Air Jordan market is saturated as well. During the pandemic, Air Jordan 1s, you couldn't keep them on the shelves. Now, if you go into any Finish Line, Foot Locker, JD Sports, you will see the last 5 to 6 Jordan releases sitting on the shelves. They just came out with the military 4s; those are sitting. They have the red and white Air Force One, not Air Force One, the red and white Jordan 1s sitting. Everything is sitting, and that's just an indicator that people are not willing to pay as much as they were. So you can do what you want, man. Like, do what you want, do what makes you happy. If you have a plan and you think you can make it opening a retro game store, if you have a plan and you think you can make it as a reseller, don't let me be the one to kill your dream or stop you from doing whatever it is you want to do. All I'm saying is that you have to be realistic and keep in mind that there is a high probability that you will not be able to achieve the levels of success needed to support yourself financially, in terms of paying for food, shelter, clothing, and if you have anyone depending on you, caring for them as well. I'm getting to that point in life where I've seen enough life to know that these things are cyclical. There will be another video game boom. There definitely will be another retro video game boom. I don't know if there will be another one as supercharged as what we saw 4 years ago, because a pandemic is really like a once in a lifetime event. So I don't know if we'll ever have that again. I don't know if we'll ever all be confined to our homes again. Who knows? The world is changing fast, and it could happen a couple years from now. But removing those two very highly unlikely factors, I can't see it happening in the fashion that it happened a few years ago. But I could be dead wrong. I'm the Y2K collector. I don't know everything. I'm really interested to know your thoughts. I think this is a good conversation. Do you think or have you seen retro game stores closing? Do you think now is a good time to try to launch that type of a business? Let me know down in the comments. It's the Y2K collector. It's been a busy day. I feel like I put out like 5 videos today. And I don't know why. I guess I just had a lot of things on my mind to share, but glad that we have a community that we can discuss these topics with. All right. You all enjoy the rest of your evening. I am going to watch game 1 of Dallas versus who are they playing again? Dallas versus the Thunder. That's who it is. Shai Gilgeous versus Kyrie Irving. If you're watching that game, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. You all take it easy. Have a good night.